Main actor of this story is Herrerasaurus, an extremely entertaining and small dinosaur that, thanks to its ability to climb trees and other objects and leap onto its prey from above, is small but at the same time quite dangerous. The first Herra on the server Triassic Survival was lucky right away. It fed peacefully together with the others. However, this little dinosaur gets hungry really quickly, and on top of that, growth here is slightly accelerated. And at this moment, the wasps made it clear that the Herra should leave. Then it used a local carcass to lure in its first prey, and meanwhile the trees were behaving rather strangely. Friggin' shift! That was a different Herra. Please don't blame this little dinosaur for that terrible behavior. All the fault falls on my noob shoulders. I promise I'll be more careful next time. At least the victims didn't die for nothing. The Herra became a cannibal. And by the way, this server also allows you to change skin, and for free. Subsequently, while trying to secure food and bait, we can witness yet another instance of the strange behavior of the local vegetation. And a clever boar knew how to take full advantage of this. After all, this terrain was its home. It took a while, but food was secured. In the end, however, the boar's body didn't attract anyone, so the Herra had to move on. These invisible tree platforms undoubtedly arouse from some kind of chemical reaction, based on who the hell knows what. But the Herrerasaurus didn't want to give up so easily. Anyway, its futile efforts were eventually relieved. And our subject learned a few useful pieces of information. On the way to the delta, they admire the beauty and the mysteries of this world. Classic! After reconnecting our technology, the pack were able to continue their journey. But our Herra got a bit distracted while admiring the local architecture and lost his buddy. And not long after, I realized two things. Without a bait, you won't catch anything. And when resting on a rock with your backside sticking out, well, if it's sticking out, it's basically an invitation. This next subject was very sociable and, in many cases, quite brave. However, it was significantly unsuccessful in its struggle to survive. So I immediately switched the recording device to another representative of the species, the Herrerasaurus. And this one was even unsuccessful in trying to bond with others, although they at least somewhat accepted him. But then, a jump of this kind apparently raised concerns about our subject's intentions. so they quickly dealt with him. Following Herrerasaurus experienced a few interesting things. First, turtles disappeared right before his eyes. And once he recovered from that, he ran off to quickly secure some food from some carcass. And while looking around from a tree, he almost didn't notice this youngster. In any case, the stomping of the local T-Rexes was more than obvious. Bastards! They ate the little one. Hunger started to become unbearable, and the Herrerasaurus had to act. Anyway, fear of the watching T-Rexes drove him back up into a tree. And on another tree, he died. At the delta, I recorded another Herrera. He was just filling his belly with a local Triceratops carcass, which had been taken down by this pack. And as you will soon see, this Herrerasaurus seemed to have some kind of flaw in his survival instincts. As if he didn't care what would happen. But the carcass doesn't stay fresh for long. And this species of dinosaur gets hungry very quickly. I was glad that the subject found a group and could practice attacks from above, but that joy quickly faded after a loss of technology. The group was gone, yet the hunger remained. And satisfying it became harder and harder. So Herrera set out for a busier area, and on the very tree he wanted to ambush from, there was another Herrera. And luckily, the friendly one. Our subject decided to head to the opposite shore at just right moment. Did you see that, Croc? It let our Herrera eat, and during finding something to ambush, potential prey was spotted. But Herrera waited for a while, since he had heard some heavy footsteps earlier. And waiting paid off. I hoped our subject would get a bite once the coast was clear, and also I hoped the carnivore didn't know about our Herrera, but with those colors, that was probably impossible. Our Herrerasaurus waited until the predator had eaten its fill and left the carcass, so he could have some bite too. He wanted to make one more intermediate jump onto a branch to get a better view, but that didn't work out. And the lives of the next two you are about to see weren't much more successful either. This pair had great difficulty securing basic needs, namely food. So they were forced by circumstances into scavenging. The subject I was observing managed to notice the danger. And sadly his partner did not. Herrerasaurus then watched those brazen raptors for a while, from the safety of a tree. And hunger forced him into a choice, because the raptors have left behind his partner's body. So Herrera had to decide whether to eat him or try to use his body as a bite. Really, it was a short distance, but it took a long time, and unfortunately it didn't take long before yet another subject died of hunger. So let's hope this one does a bit better, because it started like this. Bye bye, potential prey. Bye bye, potential survival. And now I set my sight on him, a ruthless killer of Tyrannosaurus juveniles. Whose mother couldn't keep up to protect them. What do you think? Are those AIs or players pretending to be AIs? I had a slightly strange feeling about that situation, and our Herrera had strange feelings about this fish. He sensed in the water, because it could theoretically have been bait. Luckily it wasn't. But this turtle was strange. It had ability to disappear. Shortly after, our Herrera found this body and managed something interesting. The approaching dino juveniles were looking around and cautiously moving toward the carcass on the shore. But unfortunately for them, they paid no attention to what might be above their heads. One managed to escape. But not for long. And our Herrera got him too. It seemed that this was the Herrerasaurus, the one with the most luck, and maybe with the best chance of surviving to adulthood. But his destiny turned out to be something entirely different. To die of hunger. We will see whether this next group will be the chosen ones. Even though the pack had bait prepared and everyone was ready to strike, someone ate their bait. So they ate what was left and marched on, narrowly escaping certain death. This Herrera did get a mutation for extra bleeding, but I strongly recommend the hunger reduction mutation. These Herrerasauruses weren't lucky, even though they had bait hidden in the bushes. And after a while, they spotted a small stegosaurus and attacked. But the stegling knew to stay away from trees, which made things much harder for our Herrerasauruses. And in the tall grass, its green coloration also helped him a lot. And Herrera without a proper ambush won't catch anything and will be defeated. This Herrerasaurus was living in the Highland Sanctuary and was constantly struggling for position against the local wasps. He wanted to attempt an attack from a great height and great distance, so great that he couldn't even see the landing icon. He was forced to retreat. All potential baits was too far away for this Herrera. And even here in the sanctuary, he struggled to find a proper food. And with his final weak attempt to move his bait a bit closer, this story of unsuccessful Herrerasaurus comes to an end. Thanks a lot for watching, and feel free to subscribe, leave a like or drop a comment.